before we dive into the news, remember guys, this show posts each and every single Sunday, so if you like this content, please support it in any way you can, whether you like it, you subscribe, or you go check out even more of the podcast. It helps out a lot. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors, and it's how Frank Gore he would rather play on grass than turf. And again, this comes from Pro Football Rumors. Frank Gore turned 35 years old in May, but he's hoping the move to a grass field with the Dolphins could help prolong his career, as he tells Barry Jackson of the Miami Herald. Frank said, quote, "Turf is tough on your body, and it'll have you swollen." Who played on turf for 3 seasons with Indianapolis, Frank Gore did. Frank said, quote, "Playing on turf, I wouldn't get my body back until that Friday. But when I'm playing on grass, I'm good after the game. I'm happy that I'm on the grass," Frank said. So I thought that was an interesting story, and literally that is the kind of stories we're going to have to deal with until training camp comes around, when we start getting reports on how the team's doing in camp. I know it sucks, but hey man, training camp is right around the corner, so we don't have to deal with it too much longer. But talking about this particular story, I think it is fascinating. He played on turf for many moons in Indianapolis. I've always have hated indoor stadiums and turf. Even if you had a great defense, the offense has a great advantage of you. The greatest example of this, and I know I'm getting off topic from the Frank Gore story, but it does, it relates to it. When the Saints played the Vikings in their new stadium, which is indoor and turf, if they played in a Minnesota stadium, College Minnesota, University of Minnesota's college stadium, where it's outdoors and it's super cold, especially deep into the winter, in a NFC Championship game, that Saints team would have gotten blown out, and it would never have even went to the Minneapolis Miracle like it did. That's why I hate indoor stadiums, because home field advantage is everything, in my opinion. Weather conditions help. It shapes your team. You can use it to a strength. If you're a good GM, you can build your team around your weather conditions. So I always think it's stupid for an organization, especially like the Minnesota Vikings, to say, you know what, we're going to play indoors because our fans are going to get cold. They live in it every single day. I really doubt they care for 3 hours to sit in a stadium. All they care about is to get that W. Always has bothered me, and the Vikings would have more championships on their belt, in my opinion, if they played outdoors. So yeah, I agree with Frank Gore in terms of, I love outdoor stadiums, and obviously he's saying it because when you get tackled on turf it hurts. I'm saying it, I think it helps you win more games playing outdoors if you build your team the right way. So I agree with Frank. And I've never played in the NFL. Couldn't tell you. Couldn't tell you if turf hurts worse or grass. But yeah, it is a fascinating story. I think, like I just said, many reasons why outdoor stadiums are better than indoor stadiums, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, but I am on Frank Gore's side. This is a fascinating story. This is actually pretty cool for all of us Dolphins fans, especially if you live around the Davie area. This should really get you excited. Let's see here. This comes from Pro Football Rumors. The Dolphins are looking at a new training facility. Per Adam Beasley of the Miami Herald, the Dolphins could build a training facility that will allow them to practice where they play. Miami is considering building approximately $75 million complex on team-owned land to Hard Rock Stadium, which would be a considerable upgrade from the facility at Nova Southeastern University that the team has trained in since 1993. Although the facility has been improved over the years, it is still a far cry from the first-class complexes that are becoming more commonplace around the league. Other locations remain in consideration, but an upgrade is coming, and it could come as soon as 2020. This is something that needed to happen a long time ago. A very, very long time ago. And you know what? I love the upgrades that Hard Rock Stadium has went under, formerly Joe Robbie, formerly Sun Life, all that other stuff. But when like they said, we've played there, and obviously like it has been renovated since then. But since 1993, it is definitely time for a change. And obviously Stephen Ross has the deepest pockets ever, and he's willing to spend all that it takes to get to that place. So I'm happy about that. That's a really, really cool news story. Happy that we're doing that. So that's all up for the really concrete news. Now we're going to get into some opinionated article type stuff. I cannot wait for the season to start. So bad. The show, we're actually going to have stuff to talk about, which is great. But this next news story, NFL offensive line rankings. All 32 teams, units entering 2018. So this is from Pro Football Focus. They ranked every offensive line in the NFL. Let's see where the Dolphins ranked. Number 1 is the Philadelphia Eagles, which I wouldn't. But listen, their rating system is what it's very obviously it's very number based, and there's some truth to it. But in my opinion, there's no way the Eagles offense. Even they had a great season last year, and they are an underrated unit. They have some good players, but to me, it's the Dallas Cowboys, and the Dallas Cowboys come in at number 2. Which is, hey man, you're splitting hairs at that point. 3, the Atlanta Falcons. 4, I think the Steelers are. To be honest with you, I think if this was me, my top 3 offensive lines in the league are the Dallas Cowboys. I think 2, I'll go the Steelers, and 3, I would probably go the Philadelphia Eagles. 5, the Tennessee Titans. I actually thought the Titans would be better at this point with Tyler Lewan and Jake Coughlin, but they really haven't. Their interior has kind of come and gone. But if they can somehow get that down, that's probably definitely a top 3 offensive line. Number 6, the New Orleans Saints, super underrated. 7, the Raiders. They took a deep dive off the dang deep end last year. They had one heck of an offensive line. Still kind of do. Rodney Hudson, Clutch Simile, but their tackles are kind of question marks. Detroit Lions are 8. Fascinating that they're that high. Green Bay, which they deserve to be. Green Bay Packers, number 9. I think they're definitely better than the Lions' offensive line. I think they're just coached better, in my opinion. I don't know necessarily think the talent's there, but they're definitely coached better. And something about NFC North offensive lines, they can't stay healthy. It's weird. Number 10, the Los Angeles Rams. That's interesting. 11, the New England Patriots. 12, the Washington Redskins. They didn't crack the top 10. If they could stay healthy, they'd definitely be a top 10 offensive line. 13, the Bears are, in my opinion, the Chicago Bears are a top 10 offensive line. For sure. Alright. Oop. This thing is messing up. Oh, here we go. So 13, the Bears. 14 is the Cleveland Browns. I don't know if they're... I don't know. That's interesting. Especially with the loss of Joe Thomas. I don't think they're a top 15 offensive line. Jacksonville Jaguars are the 15th best offensive line. I definitely think they're a top 15 O-line. They're not as good in pass pro, but they're pretty obviously one of the more dominant running offenses in the league. 16, the San Francisco 49ers. Wow. I think now we're starting to get into a territory, even though we sucked in the running game last year, which this seems to me like it's based off of 2017 numbers. So it doesn't surprise me that we're not going to be high. If this was pass blocking, I know that in Pro Football Focus rankings we're really high on that list. So obviously this is, I'm sure we're going to be pretty low. The Colts are 17. Oh, God. We have a better offensive line than the Colts, I can tell you that right now. The Chiefs are 18. The Chiefs, in my opinion, are one of the worst in the league. Broncos are 19. They are definitely one of the worst in the league. 21, the Carolina Panthers should be way higher. In my opinion, that's a top 10 offensive line. For sure, with Ryan Khalil, Pro Bowler, Trey Turner, Pro Bowler, Darrell Williams, first team All-Pro. That's 3 Pro Bowl offensive linemen. That's pretty good. 22, the Buccaneers. Kind of hard to argue. Well, not really. That's not something to be proud of, to be that low. Chargers are 23. God, we're getting 24. The Ravens. Ugh. 25. The Giants. Oh my God, the Bengals are higher than us. The Bengals. Really? One of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen. That offensive line is so bad. Cardinals are 27. Yeah, they've had a shaky line for a while. 20 are the Vikings. Wow. 29, Buffalo Bills. The Seahawks are over us. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. This is where we part ways, Pro Football Focus. Are you kidding me? The Seattle Seahawks. The Texans are 32. Are we dead last? Wait a minute. Where are we? Hold on a second. Dude, did I pass us? Hang on a second. Sorry, this is not interesting to listen to, but no way did I pass us. Hang on a second. Alright, I'm about to move on from this article if I don't find it. I might have to cut here. Yeah, I'm going to cut here up and find where we are. Okay, after many moons of searching, I finally found... The browser was messing up for something. For some reason, wasn't reading it. The Miami Dolphins are the 20th, according to this projected ranking. And this is based off of projections. It's not based off of last year. Or maybe it's... Well, it's kind of based off of last year. But we're 20th. We're not worse than the Seahawks, and we're not worse than the Jets and the Bengals. Thank God. That would just be stupid. But yeah, it's basically, I mean, this is basically what it says, and this is what all of us Dolphins fans thought of our offensive line last year. The guard position in Miami has seemingly been cursed for some time now. Last year, the revolving door of Jesse Davis, Jermon Bushrod, Ted Larson, and Anthony Steen combined to give up 69 pressures. That is an actual stat, by the way. Yeah, that's how hard it was to watch our team last year, dude. It was so difficult to watch that team last year. I wanted to throw... I'm not even going to get into it. You guys understand. We had so much hype going. We were coming off that 10-6 season. Nobody thought we would win 10 games. I sure as heck didn't think that team was good enough to win 10 games. Somehow we did it. Much talented, more talented roster. And somehow we just lay an egg. But yeah, that was one of the bigger reasons right there. That group allowed 69 pressures, dude. And we have definitely improved that with Josh Sitton and Jesse Davis. Hopefully he's going to improve in his year coming up, in the running game especially. So we're good. We're good to go. We got Daniel Kilgore who's going to stay healthy for us, unlike Mike Pouncey. We should be good to go. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire. It really seems to me like Dolphins Wire really stepping up your game. Do not know who the people that work there, but props to you guys. You guys doing God's work over there, because this is all of the stories that we get. I think last week's episode was all Dolphins Wire, so props to them. So this story comes from Dolphins Wire. Dolphins wide receiver Isaiah Ford confident he can contribute after injury. After essentially redshirting last year because of a torn meniscus, Isaiah Ford... Let's see here, my dang browser messed up. Isaiah Ford added some weight this offseason, as he has improved his upper body strength. Despite suffering the season-ending injury, Ford is confident he can contribute this upcoming year. Isaiah Ford said, quote... He said, quote, "I've had a year to just pick everyone's brain. So to say just to learn and understand the terminology, the language, and what the coaches are expecting and how they want things done." He said, quote, "I think just spending all of that time and having the confidence in myself and my abilities that the Lord has given me, I'm extremely confident," end quote. The article goes on to say, a year ago, Ford was expected to contribute even as a 7th-round pick, but he suffered the injury not even a full week into training camp. Despite during spring camp, Ford impressed coaches with his route running and ability in the slot. 2 years at Virginia Tech, he had 200... Well, hang on, let's see here. How many years was he in Virginia? I don't know, but these are his career stats at Virginia Tech. He had 210 receptions, he had 3,000 yards, 24 touchdowns in 3 seasons. Okay, there you go. 3 years. The reason Isaiah Ford fell that far in the draft, I think he was projected to be a 4th or 5th round pick, if I can remember correctly. Then he goes to the combine, runs the 40 time. People are like, "Why are you so slow?" He disappointed a lot of scouts in his speed, but on the field in game tape, this is something scouts say all the time. What does the game tape tell you? When you look at the game tape, he plays really fast. I mean, he's beating people on deep balls. As that article highlighted, he's a really good route runner. He's got great hands for a smaller receiver. He does a lot of things very, very well. And then in the red zone, in the red area, he's a beast. He caught a lot of touchdowns in Virginia Tech. Obviously, 24 touchdowns in 3 seasons. It's almost 10. It's obviously pretty dang good average there. So I'm super excited to see what he can do. And see if he can crack the starting rotation there, because I have a lot of confidence in the kid. I think he's going to be a good player. If anything, he's going to be a very good slot receiver in the league. Maybe his ceiling is Cole Beasley, somewhere around in there. Maybe Bryant Hartline-esque, somewhere in there is I think where he might end up. But he definitely has a lot of potential, and I'm super excited to see what he does in preseason. Because I love if you watch his Virginia Tech plays, man. It's super exciting stuff. He's very fun to watch. Super quick receiver. You know who he reminds me of is Devon Bess. That's a great comparison. If he gives us a rookie season like Devon Bess, I think we'll all be very, very, very happy. But he does remind me a lot of... Devon Bess and him have a lot of similarities. He might have better hands than Devon had. He made a lot more circus catches in college than Devon did in college. But he definitely reminds me a lot of Devon Bess. So hopefully we get that out of him. And again, Devon Bess, was he an undrafted free agent? I think he was. So another later round pickup there that really worked out for us. Excuse me, I don't know why my brain just shut down. But in the history of the Dolphins, we've always done very well with undrafted receivers. When you think about Wes Welker, Devon Bess, and then or later round receivers, and Rashard Matthews, and now hopefully the next one that is going to give us a spark, Isaiah Ford. So we'll see what happens. Next news story comes from Dolphins Wire, Chris Chambers as well. Wait, I can't remember when Chris was drafted. I might be wrong about that. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire again. Why Bill Barnwell is wrong to rate the Dolphins as the second worst offensive arsenal. The Miami Dolphins have the 31st best offensive arsenal in the league, says ESPN writer Bill Barnwell. Much like many writers this offseason, Barnwell used a lazy point of view to describe the Dolphins' offense. It is like Barnwell doesn't know or choose to do research what the team's long-term plans are. Sure, they moved on from Ajayi and Landry, but there's a strong case to be made that the Dolphins' offense has improved since this time last year. Barnwell said the Dolphins replaced Ajayi with Gore, but that simply isn't true. A lot of people say that, and when they do it, my head kind of like an irking sound. It bothers me when people say that, because it's like, did you not watch Kenyon play? I know our team was terrible to watch last year, but did you not watch him play? Instead of having one workhorse running back, likely like they did in 2016, the Dolphins will have three players that they will rely on, including Drake, who will be the starting running back. Drake's skill set is a much better fit than what the Dolphins had in Jay Ajayi. I said that since the start of 2017, and I said that in 2016. The one thing he needed to work on was his receiving skills, because we were too predictable. It doesn't matter. You guys know what I'm talking about. While Ajayi is skilled as a runner, his catching ability out of the backfield is below average, and that is vital in head coach Adam Gase's offense. He's 1,000% correct. Maybe he watches the podcast. We don't know. Also, Drake showed he could be the leading man in an offense in the small sample size during his last 5 weeks of the season. Drake rushed for 444 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also caught 18 passes during that same span. Almost had 1,000 yards total just from running and receiving in that short amount of time. As for Landry, the Dolphins, I think he actually did have 1,000 all-purpose yards, if I'm not mistaken. Dolphins would have loved to keep him, but they didn't feel it was in their best interest to pay him $14 to $15 million a season when they have other receivers on their roster. So the team brought in receiver Albert Wilson and Danny Amendola with hopes they will help replace some of Landry's production. So yeah, basically what this guy is saying is obviously what I've been saying on this podcast for many years. People just do not take the time. Listen, if you're not one of the big teams in the NFL, if you're not one of the teams that have been winning 10 games all around the year for 2 or 3 years now, then you're not going to be talked about as much. And the analysts that aren't really even analysts at this point in time, I mean, half these people they have to follow all sports, and it just bothers me anytime they talk about football. But again, their knowledge does not run that deep. So especially when you talk about ESPN, I'm not going to say Bleacher Report because they have their own division dedicated towards football, but even ESPN does, but it's not very good. When you hear those big name guys talk about maybe lower level teams that aren't as popular, and I'm talking about popular, I'm not talking about skill, you kind of get very thin opinions, and people need to take it less hard. Let's say we become the Golden State Warriors, all you will hear is how are people going to beat the Dolphins? That's all you're going to hear. You're just going to hear how great we are and all this other stuff, and then bandwagon fans it's going to be terrible. But you understand what I'm saying. I mean, that's just how sports has been since the dawn of time. I mean, it's if you're on top, you're on top. If you're not, you're not. So, and that comes with many different things. So yeah, but yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you. I've said this many times. This offense, and I'm going to give you a short synopsis of what I think. This offense is going to be better. Number one, because the running backs are so versatile. All three of them can pass protect, receive. They can catch the ball out of the backfield, and they can run. They can run between the tackles. They can run outside, inside, doesn't matter. They can run any running blocking scheme you want. All three of them can, and they're all three very good at it. And obviously, I think I already said receiving. But they all three do everything well, so we're going to be less predictable. The ball should be spread around a lot more. Devontae Parker should get a little bit more targets, and let's see what he does with that. So I think the offense is going to be way less predictable. The packages are going to be way more versatile because Adam Gase's offense is way more deep, and these players really, truly fit his scheme. So that is why this offense is going to be much better, not to mention the improvements on the offensive line. So that's just a quick snap of why I think it will improve. So there you go. I mean, we've talked about that like a million. You guys should know my opinion on it by now. So yeah, that's just what I think. Next news story comes from Dolphins Wire. Dolphins linebacker Stephon Anthony will look to earn a starting spot. This is again from Dolphins Wire. Back in 2015, the Saints selected Stephon Anthony in the first round of the draft. As a rookie, Anthony recorded 112 tackles, 1 sack, 1 pick, and 2 forced fumbles in the 2015 season. Would ultimately be the height of Anthony's career, or it is to this point. Anthony has played in 18 games since, as he has dealt with injuries and a demotion. That's why the Saints traded Anthony to the Dolphins for just a 5th-round pick. Now, after playing half a season with the Dolphins last year, Anthony will get a chance to win the starting job. Anthony said, quote, "I think it's the same every year," said during organized team activities. Quote, "It's my job to come in, put my best foot forward, and try to be the best I can every day." During training camp and the preseason, Anthony will compete against 3rd-round pick Jerome Baker and free agent acquisition Terrence Garvin. The fact that Anthony played in the Dolphin system last year gives him a slight advantage over the names mentioned above. I mean, listen. I hope and pray that he will become a better player and he will improve. Obviously, he was thrown into the fire, didn't know the scheme very well, so obviously that's going to hurt your performance. But this is not Ray Lewis. This is not a Luke Kuechly. This is hopefully we can get out of him a good role player who does his job. That's all we need him to do. We don't need him to be anything fancy, anything special. We just need him to do his job and do it good. And again, that's what good role players do. And that's why obviously, we just need him to do that, is my point. Not to get too far ahead of myself, but Jerome Baker, if I had a horse in the race, who do I want to see come up and take that? I'm basing this off of the old Stephon Anthony. Hopefully, when I watch Stephon Anthony this year, he looks like a completely different player. But I hope Jerome Baker develops faster than I think he will, because he has all of the talent to be a very good linebacker. And he was obviously he was in Ohio State for a very long time. Not a very long time, but a good amount of time. And he played very well there. So hopefully the Big Ten, very physical conference, a lot of pro-style offenses in that conference. Hopefully that he translates a little bit better than maybe a Pac-12 linebacker would, or a Big 12, Big 10 linebacker would, because he's played against more physical style blocking schemes and stuff of that nature, where he's not just, he's not playing some finesse garbage, I'm throwing a quick screen every down scheme. He's actually playing against, cold weather teams at very good defenses and really good offensive lines. Hopefully that helps him to translate to the next level. Next news story comes from Barry Jackson. Some Dolphins, what some Dolphins are doing while others vacation, and some interesting Dolphins running backs numbers. Again, this is the kind of stuff we're talking about, because God knows that this is kind of stuff we're talking about. While much of the NFL vacations these past 3 weeks, several Dolphins are doing something far different and an admirable display of dedication to their craft. But then again, who else would you expect? What else would you expect from Frank Gore, a tireless worker, than daily multi-hour sessions? Gore 35 is among several Dolphins. Let's see here, still in training camp. See, who are the other Dolphins? Okay, so it seems like receiver Albert Wilson he's still there. Okay, so this is on Albert Wilson. Incidentally, Pro Football Focus noted Wilson led the league in wide receiver rating, the passer rating when targeted, on targets at or behind the line of scrimmage last season at 133.3. He was far ahead of Jarvis Landry, who was number 2 at 107.4. But Jarvis obviously had the ball in his hands a whole lot more than Albert did, so that's a little twisted. I mean, that's one heck of a stat that Jarvis was able to put up those kind of numbers with that many targets and catches. Let's see here. Charles Harris still there. Devon Godchaux still there. Isaac Asiata still there, training. So that's good. So we got some of our big name players still hitting the gym, and obviously I really do and this goes back to the culture thing and how do you define a culture. Obviously the way you see it works is the results on the field, but I think how you define a culture is just with your eyes and what you see. Every team has its own kind of flavor to it. Bad teams don't have anything, they just are bad. But good teams have their own style. When you look at the Rams, they're this flashy offense with a lot of talented young stars on it that, obviously with Sean McVay, is super innovative. Kind of the same thing with the 49ers. You look at, the Seahawks of old, they were a rough and tough defense. I mean, every really good team has their own culture, or style, or whatever you want to call it. I think ours is going to be Adam Gase, kind of similar to what the New England Patriots did with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick, it was Brady, it was Bill. I'm not saying Tannehill is going to be that, or Adam's going to be that at all, but I am saying that Adam does bring a sort of swagger to this team, and I really think that's what our team is going to be, a very fun, young bunch. I think that's what our culture is going to be this upcoming season, which makes me super excited because we have a lot of really good young up-and-coming players on this team. And this isn't necessarily a developmental year, because most of these players should be hitting their prime by now, which is a good thing. So I'm getting super excited thinking about it. I think this offense is going to be better than the defense will be this year. I think the secondary is going to be so fun to watch, but I think both units are going to be very good. And we just need consistency out of this football team. If we can just get this team to be consistent, and just do their job, that's all we need, is just a consistent football team. And hopefully, and if anything out of this season, I just want to see development in our young stars. I want to see some of these players that we've drafted over the years develop. Charles Harris, Isaac Asiata, Isaiah Ford, Jakeem Grant, Devontae Parker, obviously Minka Fitzpatrick, Jerome Baker, Xavier Howard, Tony Lippett, Bobby McCain, all of those players I want to see do very well, take the next step this upcoming season and do well. And that's what I'm talking about. I mean, we have a lot of young up-and-coming players, Jesse Davis, Albert Wilson. There's a lot of, and Tannehill as well. He's not young anymore. I mean, he's a veteran at this point. He's 30 years old. I'm not saying he's young, but I'm excited to see what he does this upcoming season, because this is the last hurrah of the Tannehill era, and I do think this is a good football team. I really do believe that. I think we're a fast team. We're a very good young team. Our secondary is sick, and that's what you really need in today's NFL. So that's going to benefit our defense. Especially, we're gonna get a ton of turnovers this season, I do believe. As long as we can stop the run, we should be okay, because that's our only Achilles heel on defense. I mean, if we get you in third and long, good luck, seriously. But yeah, I mean, this is the last hurrah for Tannehill. So this is a really, really, really interesting defining moment. And one thing I will say, let's say it doesn't work out. Let's say this season is a travesty, which I don't think there's any chance of that happening. But let's just say it's somehow, if not worse than last year, right? I really hope Steven keeps Adam in-house, because I do want to see him pick a quarterback. I do want to see him pick that guy, because, I mean, to be honest with you guys, we haven't had anybody who I think, again, despite maybe what this season brings, and I know this team's a very good team, let's just say things go wrong, I really do think we have a talented front office. I do think we have a very talented head coach. So I would be excited to see what he does with whatever the situation is with the quarterback situation this upcoming free agency. But I doubt any of that's going to happen. I really do believe that This is going to be a very fun young team to watch this season, and I think a lot of people are going to get excited about these Miami Dolphins for sure. I'm very excited to see this secondary ball out. Super excited to see some of these young, like I said, young up-and-coming receivers. This offensive line should be a lot better. Kenyon Drake. I even forgot to mention Kenyon Drake. So, again, I think that's the culture of this team, and I think it's going to be really fun to watch. So, let me know what you guys think. Very short episode this week. I forgot, and I promise you guys, I will not forget to put up the fan Q&A, but I really do mean that. I completely forgot about it. Again, a lot of that has to do with Fortnite. You can blame that on Fortnite. I've been playing a lot of Fortnite lately, and it's becoming an addiction. And I'm not gonna lie to you guys, it's becoming an addiction. Maybe when I post the fan Q&A, you guys can put down. I play on Switch. If you guys want to put down your friend code, maybe we get together and play some Fortnite together. I don't know. Who knows what happens? But I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I swear to God, after I ended the episode, I probably didn't even think about that fan Q&A thing until just now when I was prepping for the show. So I apologize for that. It's an addiction and it sucks. And you know what? Things happen. But hey, man, season 5 is here and we gotta get it. We gotta get it on. We gotta rock and roll. So I'm super excited for this year's team. I cannot wait for training camp to start. And let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And again, and I'm gonna say it, and you better listen. And I'm not kidding around. You guys have to put quiet. Listen, I know if you haven't been listening to the podcast for a while, that's fine. Put the dang questions in there. I need a lot of questions. This episode was half an hour long. I need questions, ladies and gentlemen. This show used to be an hour long, easily an hour long. This fan Q&A needs to come back. So hopefully you guys continue to support the channel and support the content. Spread the love. Tell all of your Dolphins friends about this podcast. Tell them about the brotherhood. Get them in here. Let's get it going. And I will see you guys in the next one.